everything.
Sure.
The only alteration I make, if people do join, then I'm going to do an icebreaker. But if not, then I'm gonna save the icebreaker for another time.
Okay.
So yeah, if they, but we're gonna start with at the top of the hour. We'll start with with the introduction, your introduction, and then I'll give it over to you.
Good. Hey, Tony.
Okay.
Um, I've got a list of books I'm gonna go through when I get to, preparing families for home birth. And I don't have any that are kind of specific to people of color or LGBTQ people. I don't know. I mean, I'm just bad about loaning books and getting people to read books. I know all the old ones that we always use, like Ina May and Penny Simkin and, all those. So I didn't know if you knew of any that I could recommend, or if I should just say these are the books that I know of right off the top of my head, but there have got to be ones that would be more comfortable or specific to you, or your client if those don't appeal to you.
Yeah, there are a few. I'll send you my list. Ray from Refuge Midwifery has a couple about LGBTQI families building new families that are really good. And then I'll send you like my list. I'll send my moms of color. There's a couple that are specifically for Hispanic moms too that somebody sent me.
Okay, good. Yeah, just because I know that sometimes, you if you just anime doesn't appeal to everyone, you
I know
know?
everybody's cup of tea, as they say.
Yeah, truly. She's mine, but not everybody's. Yeah.
Um, I know she's an elder and
Hmm.
okay, Nishatu, you're the host now. Did it give you host access?
Well, I can share,
You're the
but
host.
okay, I'm the host.
So nobody's in the waiting room. Well, I can't see waiting room anymore. I'm gonna stay on here because I guess I need to stay on here for the YouTube to keep going. I'm just gonna cut my speaker and my video off. Okay.
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 Meeting.
Thanks. Good to see
Thank
you.
you. Okay, so thank you for joining today, Missy. I'm looking forward to this presentation. I think it's really, I'm hoping that it's pretty designed for birthing families and for people that are preparing those birthing families. So I'm excited about that.
Thank you.
Hi,
Yes.
Amanda. I'm gonna admit people in. Okay, so I think we should go ahead and get started. We're right at the top of the hour. Welcome to everyone that joined us today. And as people trickle in, I'll just let them in the room. But we'll go ahead and get started. So my name is Nishatu, and I am a birth doula and a student midwife in the Jackson, Mississippi area, but I'm all over Mississippi all the time, it seems like, learning how to assist families with home births. And I'm here representing the Association of Mississippi Midwives, and this is our monthly town hall series where we bring you topics that are relevant for birthing families and the providers that are supporting them. So today's topic is how to prepare for a home birth, and our presenter is Missy, and I'm going to introduce Missy on today. So Missy is a certified professional midwife and a mother of 5 kids who have grown faster than she could have guessed. The eldest 3 boys, Jacob, Beckett, and Adam, were all born home and welcomed by their younger sister and the brother through adoption. Her husband since 1993, Clark, is her supporter and a believer in birth no less than she is. Missy has always felt empowered by birth from her own first birth in 1995 through 13 years of supporting mothers as a doula, her apprenticeship starting in 2009, and each time she is honored to witness a brave new mother meet her child for the first time. The beauty of this natural wonder and her complete faith that it's gonna work, that it works is what keeps her going. I understand that. She is a graduate of the University of Mississippi with a bachelor's degree in general studies with emphasis on biology, psychology, sociology, which all inform her work in midwifery. She serves the Association of Mississippi Midwives as a member at large, and she is a member of the Tennessee Midwives Association as well. She holds a Tennessee state CPM license and maintained the requirements for that, including NARM for CPM certification, Bridge certificate, my apologies, CPR, and neonatal resuscitation certification. So, Missy, it's an honor to introduce you and to share this space with you. And I'm going to give the floor over to you to discuss your topic today.
Thank you. I was asked to discuss preparing for home birth today. And I'll tell you that when we think about preparing for a home birth, we initially think mainly of the birthing person preparing herself for home birth, but it's really a whole community that's preparing. So I prepared to talk about how the midwives prepare for home birth, and then also what a doula might do to prepare for a home birth with their client, and then the family that's birthing the baby. So we're going to go from least important to most important in terms of who's getting prepared. And of course there are like everybody that like all the little trickles and waves out from your central, like you and your baby. Everybody else also feels like they have to prepare for your home birth, but really you can sort of let some people just do their own work, like your mom and your aunt and your neighbor, and like those people don't have to be prepared in the same way. So, okay, I'll start off with the midwife. And this is the least important, but I know that if you're planning a home birth, you may just sort of not know what your midwife is doing or has done or is going to do to prepare for you to have your baby at home. And so this is just kind of for maybe a little bit of peace of mind to know what kind of net somebody is putting out under you, just to be able to support you and catch you and hold you when you need it. So your midwife is going to, first off, she's going to have done some years and lots and lots of hours of education and preparation. So she's going to have didactic and clinical education. She's going to have done reading or formal schooling with like a MEEC accredited university kind of education in midwifery, or maybe a master's degree if she's a certified nurse midwife, in a nursing degree, and then a master's in midwifery, and clinical hours as well. So she will either have done an apprenticeship with other midwives that are already practicing, or she will have done some clinical hours in the hospital and at home and in birthing centers. So that means she's going to have done a lot of like your prenatal care and lab work and hands-on and taking blood pressure and measuring your the growth of babies and palpating for position and all those things. So she's going to have like some hands skills. Her hands are going to know what they're doing. So these are the things that you do for years before you take on the responsibility of being somebody's midwife at home. And we never stop learning. We also do CEUs every single year. We're doing other education. Like after we get a degree, we still have to get, if you're a CPM, you're still doing 30 hours of CEUs every 3 years. So you're doing workshops and other trainings as well. And we keep our adult CPR and neonatal resuscitation certifications up to date. So we make sure we practice those every 3 years. We recertify those. So we're continuing to practice those and getting updated skills if anything changes in either of those. The new book comes out. Sorry, I'm outside. I've got traffic. The new book comes out with, some kind of a new, updated recommendation, then we're going to learn that. So those are the things we do to get ready to be midwives to people who might decide they're going to deliver their baby at their house. We also prepare with having all of our supplies available. So like that's something we're going to do and keep available and, in good working order, and if we start to run low on something, we're going to refill it along as we go, even before you get into your due window. So we're going to have our Doppler or fetoscope, our instruments that we can use for clamping and cutting the cord and suturing. Those will be like sterile, in sterilization pouches and clean. We're going to have gloves, non-sterile and sterile gloves. We're going to have a way to chart and keep records for you, either a EHR, like a electronic charting system, or like a paper chart. But we're going to keep a record of what happens in your labor and delivery and your baby and the birth of your baby. And we're going to be able to do the birth certificate. So we will have the paperwork we need to fill out your birth certificate and do newborn screenings and all that stuff. We're going to have lab supplies and or a way to refer you for labs. So we may be able to draw your blood and send it off and get all of your like prenatal panel and any lab work you need during pregnancy, or we're going to know somebody we can send you to. Or we're going to have a way to like direct you to find a way to get labs and then get them to us. Referral, that would be the referral for labs. We carry equipment to be able to resuscitate your baby. We can DeLee or bulb syringe. We carry those to be able to help clear the airway, a laryngeal mask airway, if that's something we're trained in, an ambu bag and mask that fit a newborn baby, or a NeoT, which is another thing you can hook up to your oxygen and be used to help inflate baby's lungs, and a canister of oxygen and tubing or cannulas to be able to administer oxygen. If we are in a place where we can carry medications, we're gonna carry medications for postpartum bleeding, like Pitocin, misoprostol, Methergin. Some midwives carry TXA. Most midwives will carry some fluids to be able to do an IV for mom if she needs an IV in labor. So those are things that and then we will try to have everything we need for if you need sutures. Okay, I was just making sure that that I was not frozen, because you were so still. I thought we were frozen.
Sorry, I'm managing YouTube also.
Yeah, I like that. Okay. So, so we can do all those things that will kind of like a little traveling birth center that we're going to bring to your house. So just that you know that we have those things available, we're going to bring them in, we're going to keep them in our car, and then we're going to bring them in when you are in labor, bring all these things in your house and set them up kind of out of the way where you don't see all of this medical equipment, and your house is going to be nice and cozy, but you're going to know we have what we need available for you if you do need anything, any kind of hands-on care other than we just sit there and support you to deliver your baby. Once you're in the window to be able to deliver what we mean by in the window is your baby is developed enough to be delivered safely at home. And between usually something like 37 weeks and 42 weeks, somewhere in the range of your due date. Once you're there and your midwife is ready to be on call for you, then she's going to have lots of things prepared for your home birth. She's going to have a plan in place in case she needs to transfer you to the hospital for some reason. So that looks different depending on where in the state of Mississippi you are. But if you are somewhere where the midwives have a good relationship with the local doctor, sometimes they have a doctor that really supports them well and will see you in pregnancy and then be available for you and give your midwife their cell phone number. And so your midwife can contact that doctor and say, we need to come in because, my client has a fever in labor, and now we think the hospital is a better place to deliver. Or she's been laboring for 3 days and she's exhausted and she wants an epidural, and so then the doctor will say, great, come in and I'll meet you there. So that's one way sometimes that you have a plan. Sometimes what you have is a plan where you've mapped out your closest hospitals. You know which ones are kind of friendlier when you have to go in and which one is actually the very closest to your house. And you would go in case of emergency, and you would go in through the ER. So different midwives make different plans depending on what their resources are and what's available to them in their community, but they make a plan for you to be able to take care of you in case home becomes not the place that you need to be after a while. So like if you do choose to want to go into the hospital for some reason, or some event comes up that's emergent and you need to get to the hospital, then they have a plan for that. They don't just sort of willy-nilly, freak out and say, all right, go to the hospital, and without a plan. Midwives also are always holding on to their phone. Our phones are charged. They're at hand. They are by our bed at night when we're asleep. Our car is gassed up and maintained. We're ready to run out the door and drive to you. If weather is bad, we're watching the weather for weeks at a time, especially in the winter. Tony will say that. We're going to be watching, like for bad storms, snow, ice, stuff like that, and try to prepare ourselves to be able to come. And if for any reason there's a weather event or some way that it's not safe for us to get to you, we're going to be in touch with you and help you get where you need to get. But I will tell you that midwives tend to get where they need to get. They will just, we're like, the old um mail postal delivery thing, neither rain nor dark of night and sleet and snow, and will keep us from getting there if we can at all. So like if I end up in a ditch, I'm also going to have a way to get somebody to you or help you get where you need to go, but that hasn't happened yet. And we also make sure that we have our instruments cleaned and sterilized between births. We have personal hygiene supplies in our car and a change of clothes for ourselves, so we don't come to you and then stay 3 days and smell like we've been there for 3 days without brushing our teeth or putting on deodorant. And also that we have a contingency plan for ourselves and our families for every single thing we do. So if we go to the movie, we're taking 2 cars. If we have a birthday party for our kid, we have in case, but the rain date is this day in case mom isn't here to, bake the cake that day or whatever. So we're always doing that. Or we have somebody, if we have something that we can't make a contingency plan for ourselves, we find some backup for you. So there's an emergency, somebody's mom has died and they've got to go take care of that, and they're going to be out of town for the weekend. They're going to call another midwife and try to have somebody available for you during that time if they aren't available, or they have a partner who can take take call for them while they're gone. So that is those are the kinds of things that we do to prepare for your home birth. We also do a really not always good job, but we should do a good job of taking care of ourselves, because we are your support person. We are your safety net. We're the one who's going to respond when you need something in your labor and delivery, or your baby needs to be resuscitated or whatever. So that looks like sleep, nutrition, a craft that we carry with us to keep our hands busy, someone to talk to about anything from previous births. So we need to be able to hold the things that we have to hold, but also be confident in you. So if something has happened that was scary, we need to have, and we have experienced it and we got through it, we need to have somebody to process that with, so we don't bring PTSD into your birth. So just because I've had a baby that had a shoulder dystocia, yesterday or last week or whatever, I don't need to come in your birth afraid that your baby is too big and baby's shoulders are going to get stuck. And I'm reacting out of that fear instead of watching what's actually happening with you in your, and your body and your baby's body. I have a little spider on me sitting outside. It was just a little running around spider. Nothing to worry about. So, and then the other thing is we need to recharge between births, because we got to come to you with plenty of energy. So lots of midwives have really good ways of doing that. I tend to be bad about it. I nap, I sleep more, and then try to get back to drink enough caffeine to be available. But Tony would always take her kids to a movie, and she would fall asleep in the movie and let her kids, so she would be able to take a 2-hour nap in a dark, quiet room while her kids were occupied. And I thought that was really good. Lots of midwives get massages between births to just kind of get back into our body, recharge, and be able to be fresh, for you, and like not come into your birth with like aching knees and backs and hips and legs. The kind of positions that we get in sometimes will leave us really hurting for a few days, but we can do it because we've trained to be able to do those things. So those are the main things that we do to prepare for your home birth. There's probably a whole lot more that I haven't thought of, but just know your midwife is doing a lot to prepare. She's ready, and you can usually count on her to have all of these things available and be just in that kind of frame of mind to be able to take good care of you. Um, Kind of on the same line as talking about midwives, I know that a lot of people that join these calls are doulas, and they're also like wanting to support moms at home in labor and support home births. And so there's some things they can do differently to support a home birth mom than they might do to support a hospital birth mom. And it kind of depends on what you have done as a doula before. Some doulas do a lot in the house, like they go to your house in early labor, they labor with you for a while, and they kind of help you get comfortable and be able to understand what your body's doing and at what point of labor you're in and when would be a good time to go to the hospital. So a lot of doulas that are really experienced will be with you at home for maybe, you know, like overnight or like 6 or 8 hours before they say, okay, let's go to the hospital. They're helping you get to a point where when you get there, you're going to be active. You're going to be somewhere between, and they don't usually check dilation, but like they can tell from the noises you're making and the way that your body is moving and, how close together and hard your contractions seem to be. A lot of times they can tell when you're active. And so they want to be somewhere between maybe 6 centimeters, some 5 to 7 centimeters, something like that when you show up at the hospital. So those doulas are also going to be able to do that kind of stuff at home with you before your midwife arrives. So most of our home birth clients that have a doula will call their doula in early labor if they need support, and they don't necessarily feel like they need their midwife yet because it's still early enough, but they just need somebody to stay up with them and support them and give them a little bit of encouragement and comfort measures and that kind of stuff. And a doula is really good at that. So doulas can go to a home birth before the midwife gets there if it's early like that. And if that has been discussed and they know the midwife and the midwife is comfortable with them doing that, and the mother asks them to, because really the mother is the one who's in charge of who's in her house. Generally doulas do not do lots of medical hands-on skills unless they are also training to be a midwife or are a midwife and they're serving as a doula or a montrice, which is somebody who can listen to heart tones, check dilation, that kind of thing. That's a different. So if you are a montrice, that's something that you can do. Um, and you have to be careful not to cross the line, because you can be like serving as a montrice and then your client wants to deliver her baby at home but didn't pay you for that, didn't hire a midwife with a midwife's team with all the supplies and all the stuff that I talked about just a little while ago. And then they get to like they're really active. They might start to feel a little bit pushy and they're like, well, let's just have the baby here. And a montrice has to be able to say, no, we didn't set up for that. We don't have assistants. We don't have all the resuscitation equipment. Your plan was to be in the hospital, so I'm going to help you get there, and that's also something doulas need to be able to communicate with their clients and do, is that like, I can support you at home some, but we are not going to plan to deliver the baby in your house because you hired a doula, not a midwife, and there's a difference. And if you don't understand what those things are, then your doula is responsible to communicate that to you and be able to educate you. But I would say as a doula, it's important to get to know the midwife of of your client. If you can, go to an appointment with her, you know. take her out to lunch, or something, or just, do a phone call and talk to her some. Make sure you know that midwife and how she practices and what she would think a doula might do and what she might expect that you'll do and what she would rather have your client call her for. So some midwives are fine with you going and labor sitting for a while, and others might want to be called right away. If you go to the house in labor, they might want you to ask the client to call them or ask you, or you might call the midwife. So it just set up what the expectations are going to be between you and that midwife. Get to know what you can about the doctor that the client would use if she needs a doctor. So if there is a backup doctor, learn something about that doctor. Go meet the doctor, try to get because you're the point person, you're kind of the support person and the bridge between your client and everybody else. And so if you know everybody else pretty well and can communicate well with them, it's going to help a whole lot. Know what the backup plan is, know what that midwife is able to do in case of emergency, or if there is some event that happens or some condition the mother's in that it looks like a hospital is going to be a safer place to be, and how they're going to get there. So just know what that plan is and how you're going to be able to support that that plan to be implemented. What are you going to be able to do to help that mom get where she needs to be if she decides or the midwife decides she's not actually going to stay home. So that might look like helping her figure out how to grab her stuff that she's packed for the hospital, or pack for her because she didn't do it yet. Go in her closet and find her some clothes and throw it in a bag and make sure she's got diapers, and remember that she's going to want a toothbrush and a hair tie and a chapstick and all the things doulas are so good at doing. And it's really important to know where her house is. If you are the kind of doula who does some virtual meetings with your clients and then meets up at Starbucks and, or they come to your office, go to her house at least one time physically. Make sure you know how to get there, where to park, which door to ring the doorbell for, where her dog's going to be, these things. Because if you don't initially go to the house and that isn't something you're used to, then you're going to need to prepare for that, because you can end up rolling up at 2 a.m. in a neighborhood you're not familiar with. So it's just really helpful to have prepared yourself for that. And spend some time in her house if you can. Plan some appointments with her, sit on her couch, go in her kitchen, make her a cup of tea, get to know her kids, meet her dog, use her bathroom, all the things that if you're there for 3 days, you're going to do in her house, so that you're comfortable and you don't show up, like I said, at 2 a.m., really struggling to know where to park, where to go in, that kind of thing. And then the stuff that you will need in a home birth that might be different, or a little bit, you might have more hands-on autonomy at a home birth than you have had at hospital births. So be ready with all your body work, all your spinning babies, your birth ball, your peanut ball, TENS unit, massage guns, all those things, because those things you can use in the hospital, but you feel like when the nurse comes in, you kind of have to step back and let them. The midwife is going to be happy that you're doing all that stuff, and your client is really going to want you to do all that stuff. And that's going to be such good support for your client. All your comfort measures, all your cold washcloths and your fan and, warm compresses. You might even be, depending on the midwife, if you want to get a crock pot and put some hot water in and do warm compresses, and being like, if the mom's pushing for a long time, you hold some compresses on her perineum. Depending on your midwife, she might be happy with you doing that because your client is so comfortable with you, and that's such good support. So, these things, all the things that you have learned as a doula will apply at a home birth, but you can use them even more probably. And you're going to be her support person, but it's so much more comfortable at home. You're not going to be standing on a hard tile floor. You're going to be able, if your mom is resting, you're going to be able to find a comfortable place to probably lay your head down for a little bit. Midwives and doulas will do some support of each other in a home birth situation. So if you've got a doula and a birth photographer and a midwife and an assistant and a student at a birth, you guys can kind of rotate out a little bit and nap some. Just as the doula, just be careful that you don't, if they all look like they've got it, you don't go in a bedroom and sleep all night. That you're still there, able to rotate and help and communicate with the people that are there, because you're still a very valid and valuable team member for this mom. Um, Photos and video. You might be a doula who also takes photographs and does video. And most of the time, midwives are really supportive of that. And it's, a lot easier to do those kinds of things and artistically and all that than you can in the hospital. And we're comfortable with birth videos in general. Talk to that midwife and the mother for sure. But like in the hospital, they'll kind of tell you you can't get the camera down there between the mom's legs and get the crowning and all that. But at home, generally we're happy with that because we know that's part of a good support and a good birth experience for that family is that they have that. And the last thing I want to say about preparing for a home birth as a doula is I want to warn doulas about unassisted moms who plan to go unassisted and not have a midwife or a doctor at their birth, but they want to hire a doula. Watch out for those moms. And it's not that everybody has the right to have an unassisted birth if they want to. But if they hire you and they bring you into their house and you have anything that looks medical to anybody at all, and you have any kind of a certification at all, and you have any kind of a reputation, and you have any kind of a website, then you are their midwife legally. Like, not, you aren't if they have said that you're not, but nobody knows the difference except people in the birth community. So if you're there and you are doing the things, the hands-on care that you can do for them, and then there is an outcome that is not good, with the mom or the baby, and then you're the one who was there and you're going to be responsible for that. So I recommend the doulas not. I'm gonna join this call later. Sorry. Okay. Am I still in the Zoom meeting?
You're still here, and we can still hear you, but your video went out.
Okay. Well, I think what happened was I tried to cancel that call
Right.
and it kept me in, but without, let's see, maybe. Did that do it? Okay, I'm back.
Yeah, you're
Sorry
back.
about that. Sorry about that. So, just, watch out for people who are planning an unassisted birth. I don't recommend you do those as a doula. If you are going to do it, then have some really airtight, watertight, consent forms. Do your best to manage that risk for yourself. And I would say, if it's like your best friend in the whole world or your sister or your, you know, whatever, maybe that's different. But just be careful about that. Now to talk to what to prepare for the birth as the birthing person. You are gonna have the best birthing outcome for yourself if you get your support network in place ahead of time. So if you find a midwife that you trust, if you do really good prenatal care with her, if you have access to a backup doctor, a consulting physician that you can go to if you need, and if that midwife communicates well with that doctor, if that isn't available in your community, if you're really familiar with what hospitals are closest to your house and the best way to get there, and you have all that kind of locked into place in your mind, and you can also let it go, but just know you have availability for that if you need it. Hiring a doula is great. Hiring your birth photographer, getting somebody lined up to babysit your kids if you already have kids, having a place to put your dog when you go into labor, because you don't think about that unless somebody tells you that you should kennel your dog, because they get excited when you're in labor. And when somebody new comes in your house at 2 a.m. So backyard or somebody's house that the dog can go to is really good. Having all that in place is really good to prepare just to get you ready and your environment ready for your home birth. And then as far as preparing your body and your mind for home birth, it's important to understand what the body does in labor and to know what physiologically is going to happen to your body and how your baby will deliver. Some midwives do childbirth education classes with their clients, and that's really good. If you don't have a midwife that does that, finding a childbirth educator and taking a really good natural childbirth class that has, where your partner can come with you and you're going to get really good education is going to be helpful. Preparing your body in that keeping yourself healthy is really important. So eating a really healthy diet, whole foods, lots of protein, plenty of water, good electrolytes, vitamins, the things that you need to keep your body healthy and grow your baby that is going to give you the strength to get through your pregnancy and deliver your baby at home healthy. You want good iron levels in your blood before you deliver, so that you have the energy, and that if you bleed a little bit, you won't be symptomatic, from having low iron. So taking a really good iron supplement throughout your pregnancy, but especially in your third trimester, can be really helpful. Exercise is really good. Too much exercise isn't recommended. Like, you don't want to do things you've never done before throughout your pregnancy and hurt yourself. But if you are used to jogging, you can jog. If you're used to swimming, you can swim. If your body is comfortable. I keep getting something from my other partners. I'm going to just take 1 second and see what they've been texting about to make sure it's not an emergency.
Okay, no problem. We'll be here.
Okay.
Thanks for your patience, everyone.
Great. I'm just answering them.
Okay. Midwife life.
I know. Okay. Sorry.
All right.
They were texting me and I was ignoring it, and then they started a three-way FaceTime call, which is what I was trying to like cancel and not answer. So I was like, is this an emergency? It sounds like maybe it is, because all of a sudden they're like bringing me into a FaceTime call, but it looks like I can talk to them in a little while.
Okay.
So sorry about that. But yeah, so like, it's important that you educate yourself. It's important that you understand the process of labor, that you are healthy, well nourished, that you exercise, that you use mindfulness. If you are somebody who uses prayer and you're religious, then bring prayer into your daily activities that you're going to bring into your birth. If you're somebody that does yoga and mindfulness like that way, do that every day. Hypnobabies or hypnobirthing, or there are some apps now for Christian hypnobirthing. All those are really good. But you don't want to try to do it. Start learning how to do it when you go into labor. You want to have been preparing yourself and knowing what you use to calm yourself, to help you get rested, help you get to sleep at night, all of those things. And start on that stuff now. Make yourself some birth affirmations and keep them in a book somewhere, or make little cards that you can hang up around your room. Prepare yourself some things that help you feel happy and calm and relaxed in your house, like some pretty candles, some pretty flowers, a playlist of music that you really like. These things make a big difference in helping you to be prepared for the long haul of just being in labor and, having to comfort and calm yourself through that process. Because the softer you are all around your baby and your uterus as it's doing the work, the better your birth will go. So if you tense up, if you're tense, if you're like experiencing pain and then guarding around that pain, then you can make everything harder. You can have more pain than you would if you didn't, if you weren't prepared to do all of that stuff. We like for people to have access to all kinds of information as they're getting ready for their home birth. So I have a list of books that I was sort of making a little jotting down to recommend to you guys, but there's so many birth books and so much access to information out there right now. So there's, a plethora of other books other than the ones I'm going to recommend. But some of the good ones are Ina May's Guide to Childbirth. That's Ina May Gaskin. Spiritual Midwifery. That's also Ina May Gaskin. Birthing from Within, Pam England and Rob Horowitz. That one is really good because it prepares, it helps you do some like art and mindfulness kind of exercises to prepare to deliver a baby and just to be able to birth and to be in the frame of mind where you can trust your body and have that kind of faith. The Complete Book of Pregnancy and Childbirth by Sheila Kitzinger. Birth Reborn by Michelle Odott. Birth Reborn, Michelle Odott. The Birth Partner, Penny Simpkin. Birth Without Fear, January Harsha, Harshe. The VBAC Companion, Diane Corte, Corte. And then one book that was recommended by a midwife friend of mine was Home Birth on Your Own Terms by Heather Baker. That one would be specific for honest people who are planning an unassisted home birth without a midwife. I don't see any reason you couldn't read it if you had a midwife too, but it's giving you some information about what to watch for, how to monitor your safety at home if you don't have somebody there with you. Um, and then I asked Tony for a list of books, and I'm seeing if she gave it to me real quick. Um, that she did, but I wanted to be able to offer some books for either Hispanic or Black families or LGBTQ families. Because sometimes what you can the way that information lands is better if it comes from somebody who is going to address your specific culture and how you come to the world, and kind of what your experience has been in the world. So I would say if, because most of the books that I had on my list were some of the older books that were recommended to me when I was using midwives for my births, and most of them are older white ladies who, know a lot about birth and, you know, generally the information works for anybody who's gonna have a birthing body, but there's probably some good books you could find to read that would address really more your specific um, situation that you're in and the person that you are and the culture that you're coming from. So, and then of course, you're going to want to, if you speak a language other than English, you're going to want to look for a book that's written in that language. And I know that most of the books I've recommended would be have translations in other languages. A lot of people get a lot of their information to prepare for birth from someplace like TikTok or, Instagram. And there's a lot of good information there, but there's also a whole lot of really beautiful, um, just filtered and curated birth stories that can kind of be unrealistic. So I just want to tell you that like those places, while it is a good place to get some information and to, learn something about home birth, you can learn some things about what to buy and what you should have and how you should look that maybe aren't even necessary or even true. So just watch out if you're going to use Instagram or TikTok or some other social media or, pretty YouTube videos, just kind of keep in the back of your mind that people make those look how they want them to look. And sometimes birth looks messy. And sometimes you make noises you didn't think you were going to make. And sometimes you're like, well, that wasn't as pretty as I want it to be. Or I wanted my birth tub to be white with fairy lights and it was blue, you know. And so all my pictures are in a blue birth tub. So just know that birth is kind of real and it's beautiful and it's sometimes nitty gritty. Um, and that some of the stuff that you see online may not reflect that. So just be careful not to expect that that's what you're going to get, and know that you need to do what you need to do to bring your body and your baby here safely, and that it might look like kind of hard, and there might be poop and there might be blood and there might be some noises you didn't think you were going to make, and somebody might make you mad and they might have to leave the room, and all that is birth and all that is normal. So just prepare yourself for those things. And that's all that I prepared.
That was a lot, Missy, and that was some great information, some really, really, really good perspectives to look at everything through. So I appreciate that. If anybody on the call or anybody in our YouTube has questions or comments, I'll read them. But I actually have a couple of questions myself.
Okay.
So one of the things you talked about was how the midwife prepares herself for home birth, and how taking care of themselves, nourishing themselves, all of those things, getting some rest, all of that goes into play in the midwife being prepared and ready. How, and also rather, midwifery is a very communal type of arrangement. What's your thoughts about how families can, while this midwife is here dedicated to taking care of you and your family, how can families help to take care of the midwife? How are we all taking care of each other? And if we are, or if, the midwife just needs to make sure she takes care of herself.
That is such a sweet question. I love it. So generally, midwives will make sure they're taking care of themselves. They're gonna do that. Like, we are gonna make sure that we have some food in our car and that we can like find a place to get comfortable and close our eyes for a little while if we need to. Um, so that if you happen to have a birth where you do not have the bandwidth to do anything extra for your midwife, you don't have to worry about us. So when I go into somebody's house and they're laboring hard and they say, I'm sorry, I wanted to have, do you need something to eat? What can, then I will say, don't worry. It's okay. We've got it. Don't worry. But we also will go root around your kitchen if we need to, because we're comfortable with that. We know that we can go use your bathroom if we need to. And so we will do those things to take care of ourselves if we need to in your home, because like if we worked in the hospital, we would have a toilet we could use. We would have a place we could go get a bite to eat if we had to during our shift. And so we're going to use those facilities that you have if we need to. Families tend to try to have some foods available for their birth team, and if they know someone in their birth team has a food allergy, they try to make sure they have something available that that person can eat. So like in our birth team, we've got a couple of people who are allergic to gluten. So we tell people that we're like, don't do anything real special for us, but just know that if you do have something, a couple of us are allergic to gluten. So if you've got some fruit or nuts and some like sandwich meats or whatever, then they will be able to get something they need to eat. Most midwives really, really, really appreciate it if you have coffee at your house. Most midwives really appreciate it if they can go in and make a pot of coffee. Now, some people do not drink coffee and they don't have a coffee maker at their house, and they're not prepared to do that. And if we know that, we'll just try to bring some instant coffee that we can, use for ourselves because we're going to have to be awake enough when we leave your house to drive home safely. So, and we may need, if that is not the case, if we've been there for 3 days and your baby's born and we're exhausted, your midwife might need to go somewhere in your house and nap for an hour or two before she can drive home. That's probably the most dangerous thing for midwives, is driving sleepy. And I've heard of midwives in recent years who have gotten in accidents and died on the road leaving somebody's house. So we just don't want to do that. We don't want to do that to ourselves, and we don't want to do that to you. If you have had somebody that you loved and trusted and they left your house and died in a car accident, you'd never get over it. So we try not to do that. we'll find a place to sleep. I had one couple who actually got me a hotel room after their birth, and I didn't expect them to do that. It's the only time that's ever happened. But they said, I want to send you to this hotel because you're tired. And even if you only sleep an hour, we've got our kids here. There's no place for you to get, a quiet place to sleep for an hour. You can sleep there. And that was really kind. So, I mean, the main thing is that your house is safe, clean, that you've got what you need in your house, and that there's a place for us to sit or get comfortable. And that if if you don't mind us looking in your kitchen for a bite to eat, we'll do that, and we'll make you something at the same time, and coffee, if possible.
I
Yep.
love the kind of natural switch where I see the families and the midwives, we go from everybody takes care of themselves to, well, where are you gonna sleep? Do you need an extra room, or do you need our guest room, or do you need, can I cook you? It's something that kind of sparks, and it's good to say, no, you don't have to do that. I'll rummage through your kitchen or whatever the case is. But I love how that kind of communal thing that we have in ourselves kind of comes alive in the home birth setting. So that's one of my favorite things.
I love it too. It most of the time it feels very like family. You're there and you
Mhm.
feel like part of the family. And if the little 2-year-old wakes up and mom isn't delivering right that minute, the midwife might play with her a little bit, or we might go outside for a little bit and walk around your neighborhood or what. So it is very. Just know that if your midwife lays down for a minute and closes her eyes, and she's got her apprentice taking heart tones during that time, and whatever, just know that she's still there for you. It's not, I have heard, although I've not had anybody that said this in our practice that I can think of, but I have heard of home birth clients who were upset about their midwife sleeping. And they're like, she came and and then she slept, and she should have been alert and on, every minute. Just know that sometimes that's how we're getting ready for your baby to be able to deliver. I'm coming back. Uh, Sorry, I had somebody else try to beep in. But know that sometimes that's the way that we're going to make sure that we're able to be your safety net in when things really go down.
Mhm. Absolutely. So Missy, I probably could ask you 1,000 questions just because I love midwife perspectives, but I'm not. I'm not. I see everybody else is calling you to ask you questions. So I think now is a good time to thank you for giving us your time for today's town hall and your perspective and your experience and everything that you laid out for us. You laid it out very beautifully. I hope you come back to do another one in one of the future.
Sure we will.
Yay.
Yeah.
I don't see any questions in either of our chats, so I think that means you answered everything in your presentation. So thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope to see everyone. If you're watching this recording or if you're here with us, we'll see you next month for our next topic, and we'll promote what that's going to be.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.